The Liv Hail and the Giant Rain are two 160mm travel bikes that have hit the market for 2017. Now the Hail is a new addition to the Liv range, and Liv is the sister company to Giant bicycles. Rather than simply taking the Giant frames and adding women-specific finishing kit to them, Liv is all about women-specific geometry. So all of the bikes throughout their range, from the road bikes to the mountain bikes, all have a unique geometry that Liv have developed using stats from various sources to do with body dimension data for men and women.
Yep, the Rain is Giant's all-mountain 160mm enduro bike. It's been around for quite a long time now, obviously with various different iterations. I've been testing the bike for BikeRadar, and so we were chatting in the office one day.
And we thought, well, given that they're both 160mm travel, all mountain bikes, how do they actually compare? So how does the women's-specific geometry feel when a guy rides it? And how does the unisex geometry feel when a woman rides it?
So we decided we'd take a few days out of testing, take them out to the Forest of Dean and various other places where we regularly ride. I would ride the Rain and the Hail, and Aoife would ride the Hail and the Rain. We'd then have a little discussion between the two of us and kind of work out what the main differences are, whether we think the women's one is perhaps more suitable for women or maybe not.
Now, Liv would say that there are specific differences, that there are enough differences between the average woman and the average man, not that I'm saying that we are average in any way, that would mean that women would get more out of riding a women's specific bike. So that was definitely one of the things we wanted to test. And the Hail, which was released last year, does have a number of features that are very different to the range. So this is not the same bike, this is not the same frame with women's specific finishing kit, it has completely different geometry, although they do both share 160mm of travel and a similar purpose.
For a true objective comparison, we'd have liked the same spec on the two bikes, but this isn't offered between Giant and Liv. But what we did do is make sure the suspension was set up properly for each of us when we went out testing. So the main differences between the bikes then is the geometry really, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So I know, Aoife, you've ridden the Hail quite a lot.
Yep.
And I'd never ridden it before. So it was quite interesting for me to try the Hail. But what did you think of the Rain when you rode that?
There were a couple of big differences, and the two main ones I noticed were the head angle and the bottom bracket height. Now the second one's quite interesting because Liv make a big thing about the fact that they've raised the bottom brackets on the Hail. And their justification is that it's better handling for women, that women have on average a lower centre of gravity naturally than guys do, so they are able to raise it, and that raised bottom bracket means that you're more able to pedal through technical terrain, you don't need to ratchet as much. That was true. I definitely felt like on the Hail I can pedal through stuff, and I did find that when I was on the Rain I caught my pedals a lot more. However, I think ratcheting is quite a good technique to have anyway, so I think using that as an excuse perhaps isn't the most compelling. And yeah, it did compromise handling on the descents. I just felt that even though the Hail has a slightly longer wheelbase, I think, for size compared to the Rain, I would have liked a lower bottom bracket just to have that lower centre of gravity for more technical descents.
I think so. I certainly noticed that the change in the BB height, it's only 5mm, I think. It's not a massive change, but it is a slightly noticeable one. I do get Liv's reasoning for being able to pedal through things more. Perhaps there's less momentum to carry your weight through stuff, perhaps. I would argue though that the benefit of having a lower bottom bracket is universal. So if women do have a lower centre of gravity or centre of mass, that's great. Personally, I'd love to lower mine even more. You know, having a lower bottom bracket means you can rail corners better, you get better traction, it feels more stable, and I can't really see any viable argument for raising it. On your first point as well about the head angle,
yep.
This for me, when I jumped on the Hail, was, along with one of the other geometry attributes, which was the height of the bike, the head angle was instantly noticeable between the two bikes. So the Hail has a 66-degree head angle, the Rain has a 65-degree head angle. Again, a degree doesn't sound like very much, but when you jump between the two bikes,
you can really feel it, like really feel it straight away. Even on sort of flat terrain, when we were riding off in separate directions in the Forest of Dean, you switch between the bikes. I got on the Rain, I was like, whoa! Even on flat cornering, it was noticeable.
You can't really get the same stability and the same confidence out of the tyres with that slightly steeper head angle. It feels twitchier, feels more nervous, it feels a bit sketchier. And for me, I don't understand, this is the biggest fall down for me of the Hail, is that, okay, if you have a geometry which is shorter with a taller front end, which is what the Hail has, that's fine. If that's designed around women's sort of shape, that's totally cool. But I can't see a justification for saying, well, women don't need a 65-degree head angle. I don't understand the justification for that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found jumping on the Rain, I did find that the fit wasn't quite right for me. I think I preferred that slightly shorter position for the Hail for me. That felt more comfortable. It did feel like a more comfortable bike, but I felt that the performance of the Rain on technical terrain just had the edge over the Hail. The Hail was great for climbing, but yeah, on technical descents, the Rain had the edge.
And I guess then this comes down to what the bikes are perhaps intended to. So if you look at the Unisex range, you've got the Anthem cross-country bike, you've got the Trance trail bike, and you've got the Rain, which is their enduro or mountain long travel bike, and then obviously you've got your Glory downhill bikes.
And on the Liv side of things, you've only got the Peak, which is very much cross-country focused, and the Hail, which is their, well, I guess occupies almost the range of several bikes in the giant range. So that's their 160mm bike that seems to need to do everything from sort of more all-mountain enduro to trail riding.
And it feels then to me that they've kind of taken some of the elements of the Rain, some of the elements of the Trance, and tried to amalgamate them, and I just don't think they've nailed it. I think let's have the Hail with 140mm, with that 66-degree head angle and that slightly shorter reach, cool, kind of like a good all-round trail bike. But if you're going to build a bike for aggressive terrain, which is what the 160mm travel suggests, you know, with a Lyric up front, yada yada yada, this is a bike built for hitting steep, fast technical terrain, not necessarily for winching back to the top. Let's have like all the benefits that the Rain has and put it on the Hail. So let's have a slack head angle, let's have a low BB, let's do all these things and then build that around the shape of a woman's. It just feels they've compromised it in the wrong way. One of the things that I did find quite interesting in terms of speccing is that across the men's range, there's no dual position Lyrics, whereas on the women's, the bike we tested came with a dual position fork.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Liv have put on as one of the main selling points of the bike, is that the idea is that you can shorten the travel for climbing and then open it up again for descending. I never actually used it. I usually left it open the whole way, the whole time anyway, and I did also find that the fork performance was a little bit compromised. I didn't really get on with that fork. I found it blew through the travel quite quickly and I ended up having to put in a token to try and temper that. For me, overall, it's not as clean cut as I was hoping either way, actually. I still felt really comfortable on the Hail. I found the fit was really good for me. But I would just like that lower bottom bracket and a slightly slacker head angle for me. If I could have that, then the Hail would be pretty much perfect. So unfortunately, we can't draw a really clear-cut conclusion from that. We can't say, yes, you should always buy the Hail, or yes, you should go for the Rain if this is the kind of bike you're looking for. What we can say is that if you are looking for something that's really good at those technical descents, then perhaps the Rain has the edge over it. But you do need to take into consideration the fit question, and obviously fit and comfort is a huge part of the performance of a bike and the performance of a rider. So, as with any bike, we'd always recommend giving them a go if you can before buying them. Try the Hail and the Rain back to back, see which one suits you better, try and take them on some technical terrain if that's the kind of riding you're going to be doing, and choose the bike that suits you best.
It's good.
We'll go with that. Way!